This is an unboxing and assembly report for the NCM Munich electronic bicycle. We ordered this from Leon Cycles up in Seattle on Tuesday, November 17, 2020. It was shipped on Wednesday, the 18th, and arrived here in Sacramento from Seattle on Friday morning, the 20th. As you can see, there was some damage to the carton, and we'll find out if it affected anything. I sort of doubt it, though. We ordered this bike for my wife. It's a 26-inch wheel step-through bike. You could find it on the Leon Cycle website. And one of the reasons why we got this, in addition to specifications that fit my wife's size, she is 5'2", although the bike can service individuals up to 6 feet, maybe even taller. It has a lot of good features, at least on paper. We'll find out how it is once it's assembled and used. But the thing that caused me to work with Leon Cycles in getting this, I looked at several models in the price range of bikes under $1,000, was the fact when I called them just to get some information, a real person answered on the third ring of the phone and was very polite, knowledgeable, courteous, patient with all my questions. And it was a real big deal for me to have such type of service when I wasn't yet a customer. In addition, they tell me they have a warehouse that supplies and can stock, I think he said 95% of the parts needed. So although the bike is made in China, they have parts available here in Seattle that could be shipped to me. They also told me information about assembling the bike and things to worry about. So it gave me a great deal of confidence. I ordered the bike, as I said, Tuesday online. And on Wednesday I saw how the order was and I called to check on something. And again, the phone was answered on the third ring by another polite individual. This person happened to be a mechanic at the bike at Leon Cycles. And again, was very courteous, patient, understanding, and a really good sense of humor. I asked him how things are in Seattle, and he gave me the scoop, and it was a very pleasant experience. That type of thing, 2 calls on Tuesday and Wednesday, gave me a lot of confidence in this organization, Leon Cycles. So I hope the bike is all I hope it to be. And so I'll go in with the process of assembly. Delivery by FedEx was very fast. The FedEx driver brought the package to the front door. It is fairly heavy, probably over 55 pounds. And we brought it into the house. As you could see, has a little damage, and as I said before, I don't expect it to be too significant. The driver was very courteous, FedEx driver. On the shipping order it said signature required with an individual with photo ID, but because of the COVID, he did not require a signature or did not check my identification, but I greeted him at the door and all was well. As you can see, the copper staples securely attach the box together. Since I'm doing this myself, I laid the bike on its side to sort of slide it out of the box. It is heavy, so this should work for me. Just a little progress sliding it out. And I'll finish the job. You can see the bike out of the box. I cut some of the twine around some of the padding to loosen things up. There's also a box that was a cushion. It contains the pedals, instructions, and more exciting things. Open that up, and again, you might want to make use of a blade cutter, if you wish, and see what's here. Instruction, information, and what do we have here? They even supply tools, wrenches and screwdrivers, and a hex key or two. Thing for the front wheel. Electric cord. The charger. A very important item, of course. And the pedals. A little cap, plastic cap, and some more information. And tools. Very courteous to provide the tools that you need, so for those of you who don't have a supply of items at home, they give you what you need to put the thing together, I guess. So we shall find out. Also notice it has keys to secure everything. It mentions that in the web page, so that's good. In removing the padding around the frame and handlebars and tires, I noticed a very nice feature. You don't really need to use a blade or scissors because a lot of the things are just done with a quick pull of the tie and it comes off. And you can see that attention a lot of other places. Some not so much here, that's a tight knot. But this, again, just tied, and I could remove the padding very easily. Another nice feature, you may have noticed this, but it has a tire lock, a keyed tire lock. You can see it goes through the wheel there so that someone can't just roll your bike away. They'd have to lift and carry it, which of course can be done. So you have two keys, one for the rear tire lock and one for the battery. Again, it's the Munich, has a nice saddle, I'll get to that later, and the front fork. But again, it's a nice feature to have just a tie to get these off. And of course the handle grips, very nice, and you got your display. So it's very impressive thus far. You see the quality of the welds. Very secure step-through frame, which is what is needed, especially for some people. My wife loves it. That was the critical thing for her. Again, the fenders, very nice. The front wheel, fender was just on here. I'll position that. And again, the disc on the front brake, as well as a disc for the rear brake. Nice cabling hidden inside the frame. See it down there? And serial number. So far, everything looks really nice. The welding on the front. Nice fork. Provides information on putting on the front tire and mudguard. But because of the position of everything, I'm going to put the handlebars on first. Handlebars and stem assembly. Notice it has a protective cover over the stem. And there's a protective cover also. Be careful when you unpack the cover. of the padding, the white padding. That is over that. There is a rubber item here that came off. So make sure that's securely placed on the stem cover. And again, pull this off to insert this in. Of course, when you tighten it in, this causes a firm positioning of the stem into this assembly up here. But again, be aware of this item here, the rubber gasket. Also in the small box was a cap that is used to cover the stem before you put it on in. So be sure you do that so you can cover everything up for a better seal before you position it on the stem. Also, when you're putting it in, make sure your cables are in a good position and it just slips right in there. Okay, I'm going to do that now. The handlebars are in. Again, the cover is in place, but I will tighten it down later on once I get everything in a better position for a permanent height adjustment. But an important detail to remember is that the fork probably is reversed in the way it was shipped. So you'll need to spin it around, and of course that means you're spinning this around for its final position until the fork is facing front. And you could tell the headlight item goes in front here, as you could see in the picture in the manual. That's a big clue for you as to the proper positioning of the front fork. And again, since that's not screwed in tight, you can see the handlebars will match in the position of the front fork. Again, it's not tightened now, but don't forget this cover. And again, the ties are very easy to remove. It's not knotted in there. You just pull on the string, comes off very easily. And one other thing to notice, you see how the headlight is put on here? It's backwards. There's the fork, and there's where it's attached. And of course, you could see in the picture here, the headlight is supposed to face forward. And you notice the position of the fork with this in the front and the headlight. So that's an easy thing to do. You just use the appropriate hex key to get that out, and then just put it in the other way. And you see how all the cables are nicely lining up too. This is the cap that will go over this hole once I tighten it in place to keep it watertight, or water resistant, let's say. To remove and reverse the headlight, again, just use the wrench and hex key that's provided in your toolkit. In repositioning the front headlight, I notice there's a little track and a guard here for wire channel. I loosened the screw already, but you could see that it provides a nice housing for the light. You just move it in here. Pardon my clumsiness with one hand filming. But it goes in. I'm spotlighting the channel. There'll be a nice housing, dress up the bike a little bit for the wire that goes to the headlight. Again, use a Phillips screwdriver supplied with your toolkit. And again, on the opposite side of the light. And again, this has all sorts of adjustable settings, up and down, whatever. You're also going to be now mounting the fender. It has a nice bracket that'll be fitted in. And again, in the instruction book, this is a limitation regarding the instructions for attaching the headlight with the fender in the front. Not really a lot of information considering the need to reverse the headlight in there. So pay attention to that. I didn't see any reference to this channel, but it'll keep everything in place, in position. So I think that's a nice little feature for the wire that goes to power the front head. After sort of loosely tightening, not finally tightening that bolt for the front headlight, I'll be positioning the wire in that little channel, and then I will be attaching the supports for the fender to these two bolts using a different size hex key that was provided with the bike. Remember, as you're putting these bolts back in, there are two washers, a flat washer and a split ring compression washer. And you might find using the key in this direction to be a little bit more convenient to get it tight. Again, I'm not making it finally tight. I'll do that after I get the whole thing generally assembled here for the fender and position everything finally after I get the tire in. So I have the supports for the front fender and at the top also, and I'll be still putting that in the channel and tightening the cover with a Phillips screwdriver. Before installing this tire, remove the guard from the front fork. Also going to be removing this protective cover from one side and this protective cover from the other side of the front wheel. And then I will be installing the quick release hub. Take your time when you're fitting everything in. You don't want to scratch your nice paint job on your fork, and you don't want to bend the disc as it slides into the disc brake pads. But if you take your time, it's not a problem. Installing the quick release hub, notice the handle is on the side opposite of the disc brake. There are two springs, one on either side. So make note of that as you're installing it. I have the disc right here, so since the handle is on the opposite side, I'll be putting it in this direction with the bolt on the side of the disc. Slides in, and on the opposite side I'll be putting the bolt. Just tightening the bolt for the quick release hub. Make sure you position the spring in. See how it works to tighten it, to hold it in place. Hand adjust the tightness as appropriate. So you see you could tighten it to make a firm connection. You don't want to get it too hard, you don't want it too easy. So find out what works best for you So loosen it, tighten. Of course, you're going to be holding this side as you tighten it. I'll just use my leg a little bit to hold it in place, and then tighten it. And that'll be good. As you see, the front fender is a little akimbo, but that's easily adjusted through that nut, which I will do after I could position everything, so I could put the kickstand down. And now bring the bike up to rest. Oh, it is big and heavy. It's a lot more comfortable and easier to work on with the bike now on a kickstand. As you can see, the handlebars are not attached where their final position is. I'll still need to adjust that front fender to be in line with the tire, but you could see everything's coming together very nicely. The bike looks really good. I still have some padding to remove, as you can see, but that bike stand is really good. It holds the bike really steady. I'll still have to put on the pedals, so there's more to do. But again, overall very pleased thus far with the assembly and the condition of the frame and everything. Okay, it's time for me to line up the handlebars with the frame and the front tire. I just sort of nest it between my legs and line up things as good as I could see. I have the free Allen wrench they included with the kit, and I tighten that. And then for the final tighten, you get a lot more strength by going in this direction. Put it in the hex key slot, and then push harder to tighten it in place. And of course, this is easy to adjust later on. And when you're done with that, you have that little cap that fits in very nicely here. Let's see what direction. I'll put it in. Okay. And that will cover up the hole for you and keep the water out, which is always a good thing. You don't want water to go down that hole and mess up everything. Again, I'm going to be adjusting the fenders to fit more evenly over it. I might need to push these support rods one way or another to adjust it and adjust the height here. I think the height is good the way it is, and I'll just be positioning the headlight in its final position. And again, the headlight tilts very nicely to whatever you need. I adjusted the fender at the top and the bottom to meet better balance, and I noticed these screws here were a little loose, so I just could use the hex key. They weren't that loose. I just made them a little looser so you could see what I mean. But you just tighten them in, and you can feel inside where they go. And this one just holds the rubber mud guard there a little tighter, so you could tighten that a little bit too. Of course, don't over tighten anything, but you can see things do get loose and need some final adjustment. Again, it's nice that little wire has a little channel to fit in. And again, everything moves very clearly and simply, not getting in the way of anything else in the front fork. Very nice. The disc brake and the disc looks pretty nice. It's time to put on the pedals. As the instruction book notes, it's important to indicate the right and the left pedal. And you can see they're clearly marked. Left, right. So just open it up and remove the pedals. And of course, position them appropriately. Right to right, left to left. They make it as simple as possible so you don't make a mistake. The right pedal is on the side with the chain. The left pedal is on the opposite side. Again, the pedals are clearly marked right or left. So left, opposite side of the chain. I'll put that here. Right on the side with the chain. Chain, right pedal. Left pedal, opposite the chain. And again, be careful when you put them in. You don't want to strip them, so make sure it's going in easily. If you have to fight it, that means there's probably some issue. So be extra careful. You don't want to strip that fitting. They provide the tool that you need to tighten it. The 15mm wrench fits very neatly. So when you put it in, first by hand, into the hole on the pedal, again, left goes on the opposite side of the chain. 15mm wrench fits nicely. Again, the left pedal goes in. You put the threads in first by hand. It's counterclockwise on the left. Of course, the reason is you don't want to pedal and then unscrew your pedal just by your motion. So you can get this hand tight very neatly. It already has some lubrication there, so it goes in very neatly. So just keep going by hand until it gets snug, and then give just a little bit of turn to make it a little tighter. But don't strip anything. Nice and easy. And again, using your hand gets it a lot of the way in. You don't need to use the wrench to do this until it gets almost hand tight. A little turn, you just want it tight. It won't come off. I found that when I got it in, it was just the most small amount of pressure to get it tight. So when you get it in hand tight, you might need to go a little bit without hardly any pressure at all to get it in tight, and don't need to force it any further. It'll stay on. Repeating the installation of the pedal. This is on the right side. Again, nice easy padding removal. And you just put this in, and again, you put it in, just hand tight. Again, really impressed with the finish of the bike and the welds and the overall structure. The right pedal on the right side of the bike, the side that has the chain. And again, get it started by hand. Be patient with yourself and just rotate and hand tighten. Notice I'm going clockwise, counterclockwise for the left side, clockwise to tighten on the right side. And again, I'll get it tight with the hand. And once I get it there, it's tight with my hand. 15mm. Just put it on. Just the slightest. See? I really hardly moved it at all. And it's firmly in there. You don't want to pressure it. It's just hand tight. You see it stopped and then go in again. Notice the chain guard is plastic. I don't know if metal would have been better, perhaps. This could be something that might be improved in the future. You know, the life of plastic is not the greatest sometimes. If it's metal, you could always bend it back if it gets bent in. Plastic, get some epoxy cement and fix it. But other than that, you'd see the nice derailleur, Shimano tourney. Again, the motor and hub. You got your reflectors. You got a nice back rack. Everything is well positioned. I didn't have to make any adjustments on the rear fender. Whatever they did in China held up over the shipment and seas and landed in Seattle safe and sound. So that's a good thing. And again, the finish is really good. Don't see any real damage to the frame at all. Insofar as the forks, everything is fine. No complaints there. Nice design, nice structure, nice shocks. Should give a very comfortable ride. We'll see when we get out on the street though. But so far everything looks good. These tires, I read some reviews of these tires. It seems very impressive. I believe it may even have some type of guard inside to make it more resistant to puncture. And again, that nice feature of the bike lock. You can see it more clearly now. For the rear fender, I did saw these were a little loose, so I did decide to tighten them a little bit. Not much, but I like to check things, and it was good. I like the bike rack. Has some holes so that if you have some bungee cords, you could attach them to the holes along here. The disc brake, really nice. Good secure tail light. Of course, that's battery powered, and that's really a safety feature, because if your battery goes dead, you don't want a dead tail light if you're out in the dark. So having it battery powered means that you're going to be a little safer even if you're pedaling to get back home because your battery had died because you just were a little bit over optimistic as to how far you can go on your battery. And now to talk about the saddle a little bit. I think it's really deluxe. Saddle Royale, Royal Gel, freeway model. And believe me, I think you're going to be able to get a lot of good rides on this saddle in comfort. It is plush. Well, by plush I mean firm gel that will certainly adjust to your contours as well. The luggage rack is remarkable. Again, I tested the bolts to make sure everything was tight enough. This strap is pretty simple, straightforward. If you need a bigger one, you got the holders right here. And again, on the saddle, it's adjustable post. One nice thing about this, it shows a guide here for positioning. So if you have a couple of different people, if you remember your number and position here, it can be adjusted forward and backwards. And of course, it has a quick release, so it could be adjusted for height as well. So a sweet saddle, a lot of adjustments. Again, very impressive. Could always remove this if you want to take down the holder yourself. Not worry about that being stolen if you're not using it. The battery case and the wiring, again, hidden in the frame. Keys for the battery lock. Keys for the bike lock. The rear hub and motor and disc. They really took good care. Powered by Das Kit. See the specifications online for the motor. But again, so far, very pleased. We'll get it out for a ride for final analysis for our first journeys. Thank you so much for watching. As I said, it has a built-in wheel lock. Not necessarily a bike lock, because if the wheel doesn't move, it could be lifted and carried away for the entire bike. However, it certainly is a discouraging thing if the wheel is locked and you have a key, because what you do is you just turn that key, and I'll demonstrate. Turn the key. On the opposite side is this lever. Turn the key back, and the lever is locked in position. And what does that mean? Is that this bar goes through all the way, in and out. Of course, you don't want it to go on a spoke and bang that, but once it's there, it's locked. To get out, turn the key, and it'll release that lever. So the key is key and the blue lever moving in that slide. And it's up. I didn't see any information regarding use or how to use the bike lock in the instruction manual. And I noticed that once it's locked, you can remove the key. And of course, putting the key back in and turning it releases the lock. However, I don't see that it's possible to remove the key when the lock is released. It can't come out. So it only is removed when it's locked. When it's in there, it's sort of like a permanent button. So just remember that. You have two keys. So if it's unlocked, the key is permanently in there. When it's locked, you can remove the key. Releasing the wheel lock. Again, insert the key, turn, and it unlocks. But you cannot remove the key now. Remember that. It stays in the lock until it's locked. Another feature worth mentioning, it does have a holder for a water bottle or some other space device or rack or holder on the frame. The hand grips are very nice. I won't go into the display, I'll leave that to you to look for yourself, but there's information in the instruction manual on how to use it. I tested the brakes. They function as expected. And again, the throttle and the dials for the shifter, all on the handlebars. Again, you'll find usage in the manual and just getting out and ride. Be safe. As I see where things are positioned on the bike, another nice thing that I didn't really make note of, I know it had a bell, but right on the left side, certainly loud enough. Cool. Another cool feature, there are 3 keys supplied for the battery lock. Not 2, but 3. I just assumed 2 were there, but when I went to check it, 3. Of course, 2 keys for the wheel lock, but 3 keys for the battery lock. Here's the display panel for the bike. As you see, nothing is displayed because the battery is off. To check out the battery, you could see this is the charging port right here for the charger. And there's a red button right here that'll turn on the battery. So let's go back. Press the button, and I see a display. Turn off the battery. Back here again, red button. To check battery power, you see you have indicators right here, and there's a little button right there. I haven't charged the battery at all. It came fully charged. This is the front headlight for the bike. Remember, to use the front headlight, the battery power must be on because that provides electricity to this light. It doesn't have a removable battery inside the light. It draws power from the bike's battery. And when it's on, the battery that is on, just press this button at the top and that will turn on the light very brightly. Of course, when you're done, turn it off. Now if I turned off the bike battery, that would also power down the light here for the front. One thing I noticed with a little closer examination, where all the wires come out going to the brake and also the wire to the light, I noticed it has this little rubber gasket that fits in the holes, and that little gasket was out. So I'll just push it back into place and it'll be all fine. I was able to put this grommet back in using a screwdriver and just pushing in the bottom into the holes. And it's nice and snug and water resistant. So check that on your bike. And again, you can see the quality of the welds of the frame. Again, very impressed. Very clean, neat. And again, the frame is very substantial. Of course, that adds to the weight, but then again, you have that motor powering you. As to removal of the battery, key in the lock, turn it, and just pull it out. It may take a little bit of force. With 2 hands it would be a lot simpler, but it does slide out. You see the electrical connections there. Just pulling it out of the rack. The battery is heavy. You see the connectors for it. And again, the rear tail light. One thing, to turn on the tail light, just press the button right here. There it comes on. And off. Or you could remove the key. To adjust the position of the seat, forward or backwards, there are 2 bolts. Use the hex key to loosen it, and the one in the back right here, again, use the hex key to loosen it, and that rubs up against these supports. So you could bring the seat forward or backward in position for your own comfort. And then tighten it, again, using the hex key. This shows the slide for the battery with the battery removed. It's protected by the bike rack, as you can see, but it slides in for the electrical connections. Another thing to always remember to check before you go out on your first ride: do you need air in those tires? Yes, both tires needed a little bit more air. Understandable. Shipped from China, they give it a little bit here. And what I would say, before you go out for your first ride, or any ride, check your tires. If they need air, get out your trusty bike pump and do the deed. Give it a little bit more, get your pressure up. One other nice thing about the tire I noticed, it has a reflective wall. Not a white wall, but a reflective wall around the tire, and adds to visibility. So that's another great feature. So again, remember, check your air, add air. Get a nice firm ride. It makes the thing roll more easily, and you'll be happy. If you're riding an electric bike, I'm sure you're familiar with regular bikes and the importance of having the tires properly inflated. Look on the tire if there's any specification there, but I just go by feel and like a firm ride. More closely examining the tire, I see they do have a recommendation of 45 to 70 pounds per square inch for the inflation of this tire. Again, once you get it in there, check the tire, feel the tire, see how firm it is to get a guide as to what is appropriate. So you know, by touch if possible, if you're low, you know, visually you could maybe sense you have a low tire. But when you're sitting on the saddle, you can't really get a visual check. So the sense of touch can be very important in double checking your tires. Another thing I like, insofar as the quality of the build, are the cable runs integrated into the frame. Nice and neatly attached. This is the cable run that goes to the rear disc, and again the cable is hidden into the frame. Again, substantial frame, very strong. Insofar as the front disc, it has one with a screw that's attached down to the front disc brake. And again, the supports for the front disc brake very neatly welded into the frame. Again, the quality of the finish, exceptional. NCM 26-inch frame, the Munich.